Hello, and welcome to Book Reviews Kill, a podcast about fantasy, sci-fi, and horror novels. I'm Chad.
And I'm Evan.
And you are listening to The Friday Forge, a weekly episode where we dismantle short stories, smelt bookish ideas, and hammer out topics brought forth by the Book Reviews Kill community. And this week we are doing a short story by Stephen King called The Raft.
Yeah, okay, so I read this a long time ago, and I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be fun, and I remembered it being kind of gross, but kind of scary.
I don't know if fun was the right word,
that was,
man.
oh man, I forgot about this one. That was a lot. I remember I was like halfway through reading this, and I was like, oh, are we really going to cover this on the podcast?
Oh, boy, as always, I'll put a link in the description beneath to the short story yourself online if you want to read it.
But it's grisly. It's a lot. This is definitely like the grossest thing we've ever covered on here, everybody. So maybe people that have already read it are going to be surprised that we're even covering this, because this is, woo.
It's not only grisly, but it's like kind of messed up at a few points too. And like we're talking grisly, like a young, healthy male gets pulled through an 1.5 inch wide crack sort of grisly team. It's pretty brutal. I was just like,
Yeah, so this is in Skeleton Crew, which is one of my favorite short story collections. It's got The Jaunt in there. And that's one of the stories that we read earlier this year, or last year, I guess. But yeah, so I was like, oh, let's do a short story. We'll do the same short story collection. Let's do Skeleton Crew because it's so good. It's peak Stephen King. It's like, I don't know, 1980, 1979, something like that.
Oh, he's like super on drugs and just like all of his ideas are flowing.
Man, yeah, this was a lot. Let's just I'm going to do a quick recap here. I've got it written down and then we can talk more about it.
Let's do it.
The story is about 4 college students, Randy, Deke, Rachel, and Laverne, who swim to a wooden raft on a remote Pennsylvania lake in October as a final outing before winter. Randy notices a mysterious black substance floating on the surface that appears to chase the girls as they reach the raft. Deke and Laverne ridicule Randy's suspicions until Rachel remarks on the beautiful bands of colors on the patch's oily surface and touches it. The black patch pulls her into the water, coats her, and rips her to shreds. The horrified trio helplessly watch her be devoured, expanding the size of the black shape. The 3 realize they're trapped. As Deke prepares to make a desperate jump into the lake to swim to the shore, the creature oozes up through the boards and grabs him by his foot, pulling his leg through the crack in the boards. Deke screams. The blood is forced back up through his leg and he dies shortly afterward. Laverne faints and Randy fights to maintain his sanity. Randy contemplates swimming to the shore while the creature eats Deke, but realizes that means he would have to leave the unconscious Laverne behind. After Laverne regains consciousness, she and Randy take turns sitting, standing, and watching the creature. As the temperature drops, the 2 slowly embrace for warmth and gradually begin to have sex, Randy assuring her that he will keep an eye on the creature. However, he is distracted by pleasure, and when Laverne's hair falls over the side of the raft, the creature tangles itself in her hair and flows over her face. Knowing he will be unable to save her, he kicks her over the side of the raft in a panic, quickening her death. Randy barely gets any sleep as night falls, since the creature flows under the raft every time Randy tries to sit down, forcing him to remain permanently standing. He finally breaks down and gives up, acknowledging the hopelessness of the situation. He fantasizes about rescue and sings deliriously, suffering from extreme fatigue. At last, Randy turns to the creature and contemplates if the creature's hypnotizing colors will take the pain out of being consumed. Randy does not look away as the creature's colors shimmer before him.
A man that lived like a coward and died like one.
I don't know. I thought it was pretty brave of him to at least I guess I would have tried swimming away, I guess.
For sure. That's why I thought that he kicked Laverne's body in. I was like, good man. Okay, he knows that she's gone, so end her quickly and give himself the chance to escape, right? And then he just
maybe
sits
by
there.
That point you'd be so tired, like you'd be so exhausted, and not to mention traumatized to the point of
energy,
right, but like seeing your 3 friends be devoured by this mysterious substance right in front of you. I mean, I feel like there's a couple parts during the short story where it's like, how quickly am I about to start losing my mind? Because this is just bonkers. Like, this is so far past anything that I could mentally handle right now. I don't know how I would do in that situation.
I mean, not well, right? But I think that panic and, like, if anything, watching your friends be killed would be like super motivation to at least try, knowing that you're super screwed if not.
That's why it's such a good idea that King wrote how alluring the colors of the thing were.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really smart decision, because then he's thinking like, okay, well, maybe because it's making me kind of like loopy anyway. Maybe that's the way that it kind of like chills you out before it kills
Right.
you, something like that.
Lulls you into complacency and then consumes you.
Oh my god, I love how it didn't describe anything, but like where it came from, what it is, doesn't matter. None of
Yep.
that
The
matters. It's
question of
not a
what
big
is it,
deal.
irrelevant.
That's so far out the window. It doesn't even matter at all. It's so cool. What did you think it was? If you could give it a backstory, do you want to give it a backstory?
Well, I mean, I feel like I don't because it's a scary movie, but I have already created one just because that's what my brain does when I read these sort of things. I think that this was a creature that was either dropped off or it was probably on like a comet or some sort of meteor, like living as an
Oh,
amoeba, and then it crashed into this lake or somewhere around and like managed to work its way into the water. So it's like some other worldly organism that was hitching a ride on a meteor. Maybe it was dropped off by some aliens who just had it aboard their spacecraft, but I think it was probably the comet one. I think I like that backstory better. What do you think it was?
I like the idea that it was kind of like a mutation of sorts. You know,
Ooh.
like pond scum and lakes are already there's already so many chemicals up in there, not chemicals, but you know what I mean, living organisms in a biosphere like that, right?
Right.
There's so much going on
Physical
there.
manifestation of us trashing our planet.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe yeah. That ooh, that's a good one too. Actually,
Yeah.
maybe if that had been written a little bit later, I would have drawn that conclusion. But this is in the '80s where people were like, throwing plastic on the ground and didn't care.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like
I wasn't
throwing
around.
cigarette butts just still lit. Of course, people still do that out their window. Like, what the hell,
Didn't they
Tim?
put a chemical in cigarettes to make it so that it eventually burns
They
itself
did,
out?
yeah, about
Yeah.
15 years ago. It's like I think it's 30 seconds that it'll go out on its own. So that way it prevents some forest fires from happening, hopefully.
I
Though I
mean,
know it still happens, but
that's pretty cool. Yeah.
yeah,
So I felt like the guy Deke was insufferable.
he
Like
was the worst.
I didn't like want him to die or anything, and he didn't deserve to go out the way that he did. That was the
Oh,
worst of all three of them being sucked through like a little. He said like a quarter inch or a half an inch at the most.
yeah, dude. Dude, if that happens to me, please put me in a rear naked choke. I'll show you how to do it if we're ever in the situation. So that way, like, take me unconscious, bro. If that'll ever happen to you, I'm getting behind you, and just 8 seconds later, you're totally unconscious. You're not going to experience your body being pulled between two boards.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's an interview with Stephen King, and I can't remember. I think he was on Charlie Rose, or maybe it was like one of the forewords to one of his books or something. I can't remember what it was, but he was saying, I'm a horror author, but if I can't scare you, I'm at least going to gross you out. Like that's what
he did
he like
both.
proudly said that. Yeah, I mean, there's a certain horror in this, in the sense that they're trapped, right?
Right.
That's kind of the main, like while you're reading
And the
it,
unknown.
well, yeah, that too, for sure. I mean, I think that there's a lot of horror movies do this all the time too, where there's a part of you that's like, just get out of there, just run away, just swim away, but they can't, and but it's like they didn't try to yet, so that's still on the table in a sense, and that's where a
Mhm.
lot of the horror comes from, is because there's always a chance that maybe they could do it.
Right. And I'm assuming the raft must have been attached to some sort of buoy or something because they never like paddled the side to see if they could get the raft to
Yeah,
move.
it's anchored out there.
It's anchored.
Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
and they probably didn't want to stick their hands in there anyway.
Find it telling that the handsome jock who has had everything, I mean, I don't know his full life story or anything, but it seems like he's had everything kind of handed to him, like women's scholarships, and as such hasn't had to develop any real sense of bravery, discipline, or morals. He's the first one to declare the girl dead, and I don't think that he held Randy back from going in because he wanted to save Randy. I think he was doing it because it was like, if anyone's going to save anyone here, it's of course has to be me. But I'm way too scared to go in there. But I'm not going to admit that. So I'm going to hold you back, being like, I'm not going to save her and you aren't either. And then give that this week, like, she's already dead, bro. It's like, okay, and he's the first one to write her off.
Yeah, and like writing the relationships between these characters in the way that King did in a very, very short amount of time. And this is like a 26-page little short
Mm-hmm.
story. But there's a lot of kind of enmity or bad vibes, I guess, between Randy and Deke, and like not bad, but like Randy is jealous of Deke in a certain way, but
Right. There's
also
some resentment, but I think they're good
resentment.
friends.
Oh, that's a way better word than all the other words that I use. My
Because
God.
like I've been friends with some like beautiful men before. Like one of my friends growing up, Kurt, he's just great at everything, and he's the prettiest man. just has rippling physique, and if we were ever like out on the town together, it's like he was not the guy you wanted to go like pick up chicks with, because he's an unstoppable force. Like there's nothing, and like there's a little bit of like, like, resentment, I guess you could call it. But, you also have to temper that behind like, well, I love my buddy. It's not his fault.
It's not his fault that he looks amazing every time we
charming,
go
out. But then I found it interesting that Deke hits the girl also, right? Because what has he had totally disrupted? His own opinion of himself, his own image of like being a strong protector, and
he's like freaking out.
And so he hits her, I think, to like regain and reassert his own image of himself, to establish the hierarchy. And what does she do? She immediately starts making fun of Randy for not knowing what this thing is. I thought you were the brain, because she's like, well, I'm not on the top of the level because I was just hit, but I'm not at the bottom, so I'm going to make fun of the bottom. And she's like establishing her hierarchy.
Yeah, there's like a little like in a panic situation like this, everybody needs to like slot into their roles. But it's funny because it ultimately doesn't matter at all because they all die, which I thought was an interesting choice.
Well, we don't know that Randy dies.
I guess we don't. I'm just going to
very much assume
he does. Okay, so here's the thing. I watched have you heard of, you know what Creep Show is?
No.
I think there's 2 of them. I could be wrong. There could be 3 of them, but they're these like collections of horror stories, like they were turned into movies.
Oh, okay.
Like in like the mid to late 80s, maybe in the early 90s. I haven't done a lot of research on Creep Show, but I did watch the movified, televised, filmified version of this, which you can find on YouTube without too much. Yeah, just type in The Raft Creep Show on YouTube.
Is it well done?
Find it. No.
Oh, okay.
Well, I mean, all the comments on YouTube are like, this is one of the classic horror skits in forever. Like, oh, so much nostalgia. I remember watching this as a kid, just like on every single YouTube video you ever watch. Like if YouTube comments were the rubric for how good things were, everything would be the most amazing thing you've ever seen, because it's just
awful
or terrible. Yeah,
no middle ground.
But anyway, like the short was kind of cool because they kept to a lot of the dialogue and even a lot of like the inner thought processes that Randy was having, which I thought was kind of cool. Like you got the yellow Camaro in there. Pretty much most of the opening lines and a lot of the other lines kind of scattered through this were in there. The setting was good. The actors were like, they like picked these guys up off the street. You know what I mean? Like they were just
was like the blood and gore.
It wasn't super gory, which I thought was nice. They could have gone a lot farther with it. The short story is detailed, like very, very detailed.
Pops like a pimple once he gets pulled through it. It was disgusting.
It's a lot, yeah.
And just so everyone understands what I'm talking about when I said that it's not positive that Randy dies, because the story ends with Randy like trying to find a way that he can die without any pain and allowing himself to look and kind of fall into the colors that this thing gives off, that it tries to
it doesn't go over the side, which you're totally right. Like we don't
it just
know,
ends right there.
But in the little short film that they made, he gets to the beach, like he swims off over to the beach. And he gets onto the beach and he keeps saying, I beat you. And then the thing like rears up out of the water and swallows him like on the beach and drags him back in. Yeah. And then like it pans over to a sign that's kind of hidden by plants that says no swimming, which I thought was pretty interesting. But I don't know why they would like put the sign up there and like not deal with the thing. And it's like, if they'd already been there before, there wasn't a problem. Like there was like, it made me think a lot about maybe too much. You know what I mean? They put like way too much thought into why the no swimming sign was up there. But anyway, the short was really good in the sense that it captured a lot from the short story and got the raft and like the blobby thing. It looked like a trash bag basically, which is what I pictured, honestly. I mean,
same.
In the story, the way that Randy kind of describes it at first is it's like this kind of bulbous thing like sticking out of water.
Slick.
But it had like a shape to it that was sticking out of the water. They said it looked like a checker.
Yeah, because he said it looked round, like a little like mound or something. I don't know if it was ever sticking out, but he could tell it definitely wasn't a oil slick, because he could tell it had like, clearly defined edges and stuff, but it started to move and creep. And I like how it was interesting that he was afraid of it from the beginning. He was like panicking and even like hurt one of the girls' legs as he pulls her up, because he was like, get in here now.
Because it looked like it was going for them. And see, that's the thing too, is if this was happening to me, and I think this lends a lot to how scary this is like, if this was happening to me, that would be, I mean, now, obviously, after reading this for the second time, even now, if I go to a lake and I see anything on the water, I'm going to freak out. You know what I mean? But
water that you can't see the bottom is like a terror for sure.
Oh yeah, no, I think it's called thalassophobia.
Oh wow, good name drop, man.
Yeah, that's like a real super common thing.
I kind of force myself to just swim in it for a while whenever I get, because it's not always, sometimes I'm totally fine, but then sometimes I feel that like it's just that maw coming up from the
yeah, no,
unknown.
I mean,
it terrifies me.
You're in one of the biggest spaces you could be in if you think about it.
Yeah, and lakes, that's kind of silly because it's just a lake, but the ocean, it's like, man,
I don't know. I feel like lakes are creepier than the ocean, because the ocean, like, everything's constantly moving around. You know what I mean?
The ocean's literally scarier though.
Like, I guess,
because it's like way bigger. We don't know what's in there. The lake, it's like there's not going to be a Loch Ness monster in this tiny little lake.
But people like go dump stuff in lakes and stuff. You know what I mean?
Like a mattress frame. It's not nearly as scary as like a megalodon mouth.
Maybe it's a haunted mattress frame, man. I don't know. But here in Oregon, there are a ton of lakes. Like, and Chad and I both grew up in Central Oregon, so we were in and out of lakes all the time. And as a kid, it's like, I'm at the lake, woo! Like, I don't care. Yeah, I don't care at all. But as you start to get kind of older and watch your share of horror movies and read your share of
aware of what you do
stories,
not know.
Yeah, I can't get the image out of my head of like all the things that aren't supposed to be in the lake at the bottom of the lake. And
interesting.
Like it's like
that scares you, huh? Like a rusty cart down there.
It's like an energy thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
Or like we have man-made lakes here. Forgotten. I think like Manzanita, I think in Central Oregon is a man-made lake. There were like structures, and they do that. That's in the fishermen too. Actually, there are a lot of like places around the country where we will make man-made lakes that just happen to
reservoirs.
Flood. Yeah, that happen to flood places where some industry or some people were at some point. There are like there's like bodies in the ground and stuff that the lake like washes over and stuff. It's weird.
It goes over cemeteries and stuff. That's interesting that you're afraid of kind of the lost objects. It's your terror is more like deeper. It's like not only the unknown, but kind of like things left forgotten. Yeah. And like this, that's interesting. So I'm a monster, only scared of monsters. Like that's it.
I feel like that'd be a cooler way to go than like being swallowed by an oil slick that gets progressively bigger the more people it eats, which I thought was such a Stephen King like addition. You know what I mean? That this thing just gets big. It's like it's getting full. You can basically hear it belly laughing like.
Yeah. Okay, before we move on from the monster thing, I just want to tell a quick little tale, which is why I'm afraid of the ocean. There was a shark that was tagged under some study or something, so they had a little like beacon on it that could monitor the shark's vitals and its location. And then like one day that thing started going off because it was like to make an alarm sound if like it experienced a rapid change. And they watched this thing go from like the normal depth of a shark, I don't know what it is, to like way deeper than a shark it can't even go, it can't even survive under the pressure. And the thing got hotter. And they were like, that could only mean that it was swallowed by something bigger than it. And it went down, down, down. And the thing, it was on a great white shark, like a full grown big shark. They're like, we know of no animal that can swallow this shark. So it could have been a malfunction or something of the device, but who knows? So that's the sort of stuff that scares me. And you can look that up. That is that is true stuff right there. So yeah, ocean's scary.
At the tail end of all those kinds of stories, there's usually a pretty good explanation, like a naturalistic material explanation for why something like
mermaids.
That happened. But
siren,
mermaids. But there is so much there to think about, and that's where the real terror comes from. I think there's stuff in the ocean. There's stuff in the ocean we don't know. Hell yeah,
we didn't even know of the giant squid until like 25 years ago, until one washed up on the beach. We're like, that is real.
We had heard stories about it.
Yeah, it was like a creature of legend.
Yeah, but we were like, oh wow, that thing actually exists.
Have you read Black Tongue Thief yet?
No, I still haven't.
There's like a giant squid chunk of that is awesome. Cool. Yeah.
There's a book called The Deep by Nick Cutter that I want to read really soon. It's the same guy that wrote The Troop. But I've got it right back here behind me, and I'll probably read that.
Clearly has a naming convention for his books.
Cutter, The Deep,
The Troop, The Deep.
Oh, then he has another one called Little Heaven, so it's not every one of them, but all the covers kind of look the same, which is interesting, or the spines do at least.
Tell me your thoughts when they first started to hook up, because I was like incredulous and kind of sick to my stomach.
Okay, so that's actually what I was just about to ask you, because yeah, it's gross. I mean, yeah, the part of me that tries to see the best in everybody and tries to understand my way through most situations kind of gets it, because it's just like they're hopeless, like
Right. They
whatever.
needed warmth. They needed comfort. I
Like,
get
why
that
not?
part.
Yeah.
But cuddle.
Yeah, but at the same time, is just like I don't judge them for smashing. Like,
Right.
a couple of like college
I
kids do your
do
thing.
after watching their two friends be
But
eaten alive
right, that
15
was
minutes prior,
exactly.
though.
It's like, yeah, you just watched two of your friends die, so that's like kind of I don't think I'd be in the
Still
mood
covered in Deke's blood.
if I was in that situation and I was with somebody and they were like, what'd be a good idea right now is if we had sex. I'd be like, we should rain check on that and just keep that energy until the next time we're not here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because obviously,
Keep that. I like how you try to plan for the future. And like, no. It's like, let's not take it off of the table. Let's just couch it for now.
Yeah, because obviously, the way that cosmic karma works and the way that the cosmic comedy works, we will die if this happens.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So, like, the way that the situation has built up to the point that it has, no, I'm not doing that. So,
can you think of one more thing that would be more distracting, more disruptive?
Exactly.
Like, it's a very movement-based activity. It's very distracting. You're going to be very focused. It does things to your mind, turns off all sorts of like inhibition and fear centers, and like, people will do things that they would never imagine when they don't have those chemicals running through their brain, when they're not turned on. It's just like, wow, guys, I can't believe that this is the decision. He was the one to kind of further it along, which made me even kind of hate him more. Because at first I was like, okay, he's going to be the survivor here. He's going to do something smart. He's the brave one who has actual morals. But like, man, he just kind of disappointed me at every turn.
I mean, but that's like it's a horror story, Like,
yeah.
This is, he's not gonna figure out a way for them to get out of there, no, they're trapped on a raft with this weird blob thing, and it's gonna eat them all.
It's gonna eat them,
and then that's gonna be the end of it.
Right. Well, now we obviously don't know until we're in that situation, because you don't know yourself until you are. But would you have gone the route that I was so quick to call him a coward for, which was the easy way out, kind of lulling himself in and then going out? Let's just assume he did go in, or would you have gone down fighting and tried to make it to the shore, or what would have been your path?
I think I would have swam.
Yeah.
Like, after the first person died, they're not in a clear mindset, obviously, and I don't know that I would be either.
Right.
But I think they were it said like 50 yards away, like 150 feet, which is a decent amount to swim. But if you're afraid for your life, like, you could probably swim pretty quick.
You're gonna be hoofing it through the water, especially if you just kicked Laverne in and he has a snack to chump on for a minute. I was like, "What are you doing? Go, go, go!"
Yeah, that would have been the ideal time to go. But
yeah,
but what about you?
Oh, I would have done the same thing. Either that, or I would have tried to, we've seen nothing to lend support to the idea that you can unattach yourself from this thing. Because I would have, if we did, or if I would have had a knife on me, I would have tried maybe like almost cutting off my hand or something, and like letting it get it, trying to then pull it up onto the raft, and then like losing that hand and then jumping in.
That's such a complicated series of
I know.
things.
I mean, you have all the time in the world to think about it, though. I mean, and I don't know if I'm man enough to be able to cut off my own hand. I don't know, but
This is unrelated, but have you seen the movie Green Room?
Maybe. What? That sounds really familiar.
It's a movie about the band that they get a show in like rural Oregon where they kind of realize that they're at like a neo-Nazi convention, basically. But yeah, then they get kind of like caught up in what's going on there. Patrick Stewart's in it, and Patrick Stewart
hating
plays
on
like
Jews.
The lead neo-Nazi. No, well, I mean, yeah, obviously, but it's not like what the movie's about. But it's about like this band that's caught up in like what's going on there, and the hand thing just that you mentioned is a thing in that movie, and it just made me no, I mean, that's one of those movies that I'm never gonna watch ever again.
Yeah,
even though I liked it. You know what I mean? Kind of like with like The Revenant. I'm never gonna watch The Revenant again because it's just like I did it. I saw it. Yeah, like I saw it. I know what it is. I get it. Like, nope, not doing that again.
Yep. History X, America History X, one and doneer for sure.
That one's damn. But yeah, it's much like those movies. I don't know when the next time I'm gonna read this story is. I forgot about a lot of the gruesome details, and then rereading this. I'm glad everybody that's with us.
Sometimes there's been so many times I was like, sorry, man, I didn't quite realize. It just was in my brain as like a really good story, and then, but I mean, never have I ever been like, Evan, I wish I wouldn't have read that. Like, this was great, and a great form of horror, because it's something that I'm already afraid of, deep water. So it's not like I got more afraid of deep water. And it's not something that's going to haunt me tonight. It's like this thing lives in the water. It's not really like a fear that I'm going to relate to right now. And so like I thought it was awesome. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
I mean, I just personally, if there's a raft out in the middle of a lake, and if any of you are listening right now and we end up in that situation and you want to go hang out on the raft, I'm not going to go. And it's just like a simple thing. And we'll consider this short story a cautionary tale.
Yeah, and everyone needs to know how to do the rear naked choke so they can put their friends under when they're being brutally squeezed to death.
This is why you all listen to this podcast, okay?
For excellent life advice.
We started gruesome, and this is probably the grossest thing we've ever talked about on this podcast, but you learned a few things, and
silver lining there is.
Chad and I as people much better now. But thank you so much for listening to this episode, everybody. Always look forward to these Friday Forges. Join us next week when Chad and I cover some topics brought forth by the Discord and by my TikTok and just the community in general.
And if you have anything that you would like answered, go ahead and hop into the Discord. There is a channel, Friday Forge, and put your questions in there. It's always nice to know exactly what questions you want us to answer, or else we start going off on people being squeezed between boards and which fantasy character we would have with us to kill the Dark Lord, which was an awesome episode, by the way.
We might do something like that again soon. Because
I wrote a whole list of like things that were kind of similar.
Sweet. Yeah. All right, everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We'll see you next time. Hope you have an awesome rest of your day. And of course, happy reading.
Bye, everybody.